And we are live. Hello, everyone. Hello, 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 and welcome, welcome, welcome once again to Satsang. Your Satsang, right? Not to anybody else's. It doesn't belong to me. It doesn't belong to anybody else on the list. It's always a personal experience. And, everything in life is. When you could be sound asleep in bed with your beloved, right? And you cannot share your very subjective experience of the dream. Our experience of life is extremely personal, intimate, and subjective. Okay? We like to think that we're experiencing things as they actually are, and for the life of us cannot understand why everybody isn't experiencing the same thing. It's because something inside of us, something inside of our psyche, feels safer when it thinks it's got the goods, the knowledge. I know what's happening. This is what's really happening. And one of our big difficulties, maybe the biggest difficulty, is that we mistake our story or our narrative or our interpretation of events and our experiences as if our story about it was in fact it. The fact of the matter is that when you experience any event, it sets in motion this tsunami of reactions and responses and conditioned patterns and programmed behaviors and thought patterns, right, that are all interpretive of the event. And that interpretation, and here's the big one, is arbitrary. It just happened to happen that way because of the particular circumstances that you experienced when you were growing up, the particular conditioning that you happened to have, the culture you were in, the subculture you were in, the nature of your particular environment determined how you interpret and see the event, to the point where it gets so ingrained in us and so automatic that we don't think there's any difference between the event and our interpretation of it. And this is a stunning thing to ponder. What if everything you knew was false? Everything you were absolutely convinced was true. You'd stake your life on it. You'd go to war over it. And you found out it was an arbitrary belief system installed in you a long time ago before you had any capacity to distinguish or any kind of discrimination, and that it was wrong. The spiritual journey, and satsang in particular, is the very courageous process of questioning those assumptions to the degree that they simply completely fall away. They have a most marvelous term in Buddhism. It's called the great doubt. And the point of it is to doubt everything. Absolutely everything. I heard a Buddhist monk speaking. I got to meet this guy, wonderful guy. He doesn't live anywhere. He just travels from place to place all over the world, just staying here and there. He's just a wandering monk. And he even said, I don't even know if Buddha actually existed. Now, here's somebody who's dedicated their life to Buddhist precepts saying, I don't know if the Buddha even exists. Now, that is doubt. That is a great doubt. And they say in Zen, great doubt, great enlightenment. Small doubt, small enlightenment. No doubt, no enlightenment. I know we've all had the experience of having of dealing with somebody or having a conversation with somebody who is so dead certain that they were right it wasn't actually even a conversation. It's kind of like when the Jehovah's Witness or the Mormons come to your house and they say, "We'd like to talk to you about God." And no, you don't. You want to tell me your views. You don't want to have a conversation. You don't want to listen because you already know. If you already know, you're stuck in the great knowing, which means no enlightenment, no awakening. Because what is awakening except the falling away of our delusions, our illusions, our assumptions, all the things that we have believed to be true that not only aren't serving us, they're actually hurting us. Because whatever we believe to be true, we experience, right? And people believed that the sun went around the earth, that the earth was the center of the universe because Christ was born here. Everything was about me. You could see the expression of egoism in it, but this was the center of the universe. Everything revolved around that, and on the surface, it didn't seem to make much difference, and it didn't make much difference in early life. And interestingly enough, one of the problems that came up was it was impossible with that model to accurately measure time. You couldn't make a workable calendar. And it was actually the church who was the biggest enforcer of that idea, and even forced Galileo, who contradicted it, into recanting it on fear of his life. It was them that actually precipitated it, because they would hold events and people would show up a month late, right? Because you could not accurately predict it. How can you? You're looking at the wrong model, right? If your arithmetic is wrong, no matter how well you have derived the most complicated calculation, the answer is going to be wrong. And this is the reason why we challenge our fundamental assumptions. The life you're living right now, and let's say you don't really like it, or you'd like it to be better, you want to change it, is a product of that. It is a product of your assumptions. Period. If you want to successfully change your life, you have to change your assumptions. You have to bring your beliefs in line with what is actually true. And the discovery of what is actually true is what satsang is all about, your own personal satsang. Every time you question an assumption, you're in satsang. Not just here on Sunday afternoon. Anytime you go, is that really true? Or am I just believing that? And nobody can tell you what the truth is. Right? Nobody can say, well, this is true. Because if somebody does do that, it's another concept. It's another story. It's another narrative. It's another interpretation of events. The only thing you can do is look directly for yourself. Look to see. You pull yourself away from the assumptions. Great doubt. Assume everything you know is wrong. Everything. And let yourself be open to having what is true proven to you. Start from that point of view. I know nothing. I know absolutely nothing. Well, nothing except one thing. And in fact, this is the one undeniable fact that you can't get away from, and you don't need to. It is the one thing we can know. Everything else is dubious. But this is not. And that is, I am. You cannot doubt your own existence. Everything else, yes. Everything else, yes. But your own existence, because you'd have to be here to doubt it. It is the one undeniable, self-verified fact. If you want to experience the truth of all things, this is where you have to start. You have to start with the one thing you absolutely know and doubt the rest. Well, that's my little preamble for today. As always, I have no idea what's going to come out of my mouth until it does. So the floor is now open for any questions anybody might have about anything at all. By all means, say hello in the chat. Tell me where you're listening from, and especially if you're brand new. If you're brand new to me, brand new to Satsang, brand new to this kind of conversation, this kind of an inquiry, this is, please let me know that. It's very, very helpful, because I'm used to speaking on a variety of levels. There's some people here who have really been pursuing self-inquiry for a long time, and have truly made great progress in self-understanding. But some of you may be brand new and have never heard any of this before. And I love engaging with people when this is the first time. That's why on my radio show, the co-host I have, who's also my producer, until she met me, she'd never heard of any of this. So I like doing the show with her because the questions are just so innocent and fresh. So don't be shy about asking any question about any aspect of your life or spirituality that you want to. So let me say hello to everyone. Robert Hill, woo! Good to see you, man. Daryl, who said, hey, Robert, good vibes. Penny, good day, GP and everyone. Hello, Penny Snazalia, who's in Serbia. I remember perfectly now. Hello, friends. Hello to you. Andrew Robinson. Hi, everyone. Hello, Andrew. John in Ireland. Dale in Massachusetts. Ava in Poland. Ursula on Madeira Island in Portugal. David and Elaine. Hey, GP and everyone, greetings from us both. Thanks again, GP, for last weekend's online retreat. So good to be a part of it and be with everyone there. Yeah, isn't that great? You know, I had questions and some doubts about doing an online retreat, if whether or not it would have the same kind of an effect, right? Because, you know, you can't isolate yourself in a room, and you can't, you know, create the perfectly safe, distraction-free environment. But then 3 or 4 months ago, the Krishnamurti Education Center asked me to do one. And so we did. And of course, you can't meet anywhere right now, so it had to be online. And I was actually pretty impressed with how much depth and how much intimacy and how much understanding could be generated in this environment. It was really wonderful to see. And my teacher Muji made the same comment. He was really surprised as well, because, you know, he's not holding live satsangs anymore. They're all online. So, which is funny. I mean, they don't have indoor plumbing at his ashram, but they have fiber optic and state-of-the-art video equipment. They got their priorities right. So, yeah, it's really quite a lovely experience. I'll be doing another retreat for those of you who are interested at the end of March. Again, this will be sponsored by the Krishnamurti Education Center. So it'll be through there. So actually half of all of the proceeds will go to them to help support them, which I think is really wonderful. It's completely nonprofit. When they start doing live events again, I'll be doing one there. And it's extremely reasonable. I mean, I do it gratis, right? I do it for free with them online. We split the proceeds. But I have a stipend, a little something, and they pay my expenses to go there. And that way they keep the price extremely low, even for all of the food and everything that goes with it. So, yeah, the whole retreat, online retreat thing really works. So didn't mean to go off on that like that, but I'm really happy about it. And obviously, so are people who have been there. Brian in Virginia, hello, sir. Hello to you. Rosario in Spain, good to see you. Andrew Robinson, who's in Romania, I think. Andrew, when I look at politicians, I sense I'm looking at pure egos. But that begs the question, what is actually looking at what if neither exist? It's a mind. The capacity to discern ego is not the ego. If you're discerning the ego in them, and yes, politicians are completely operating from that place, right? Because they don't have any doubt, right? If they do, things change, and you see a shift in their character, right? But they're ideologues. They hold on to a certain position, right? And then they live that position, right? Which is ego. Now, remember, ego isn't arrogance, right? You know, the person who thinks, you know, I'm terrible, I'm lost, I'm just really not enough. That's ego as well. Ego is simply that which tries to define us as separate from others. That's it. That's all it is. It's the sense of a separate self trying to define itself, right? So the politician defines themselves as a politician. They align with a belief system or an ideology, a political ideology, right? And they become that. They live it. Their thoughts revolve around it and the like, right? Now, if you have a different ideology than them, you can get into this. Now that's ego. If I say, you know, that guy's, you know, that guy doesn't know what he's talking about. This is the way it really is, right? And notice that's where I started Satsang today, thinking I know what it really is. I know that I know is dangerous. So you got the Democrats yelling at the Republicans and the Republicans yelling back, and they're doing this. That's ego. But if you can sit back and look at it and see the ego in it, that which sees the ego is not the ego. It's something that has transcended. Now, that doesn't mean you've completely transcended your ego, but it does mean that you've awakened enough that you can see the activity of the egoic mind in people's activity. And this is extremely important, because this is how we transform the world. If we don't, we simply take one position after another, and the world just keeps spiraling out of control. Because there's a dominant position in the world right now that is self-destructive, right? And it's the love of money. Christ pointed it out 2,000 years ago. The love of money is the root of all evil. You cannot serve both God and money. And yet, that is what our politicians serve. That's what our political systems serve, our economic system, even our culture now. The value system in the West, and particularly the United States, is money, period. Profit above all else, right? And that's what's killing us. Now, that's a value system, right? It's an arbitrary value system, but it is believed by so many people, right? The models of success are what? What do people picture? We think success. They almost inevitably think, they don't think of how well they took care of their children, or the irrigation system they built in Africa. They think in terms of finance. They think in terms of money, right? It's embodied in the culture. So when you say, I see the ego of the politician, don't be personal about it. Now, if you see that and think you're better, well, that's your ego. If you think that person's horrible, he should change, he should know better, or he should wake up, that's ego. But if you simply see it, right, perceive it as it is, right, without any judgment of it, just understanding that that's how that guy got programmed, and he has not had enough consciousness yet to question, to engage in any doubt, even a little doubt, let alone the great doubt. Right? And so you're absolutely right in discerning that as ego, but understand what the ego is. It's not arrogance. It's self-defining. Right? And the purpose of it self-defining itself is because the separate self has no substance or stability in and of itself. So it's always looking externally for reinforcement to know who it is. Right? Of course, it can never know who it is because it's arbitrary. right? It's completely nebulous. Nebulous. It is inherently unstable. But so notice the fact that you can see it, right? And notice the fact that you can see it in yourself. Right? And when you do that, you'll actually gain compassion for these people, and at the same time, a wisdom that understands the underlying value system that's creating it, and the inevitable outcome of that value system, which is self-destruction. And that's the wisdom that'll wake up the world. As Christ put it, be wiser than serpents and harmless than doves. You could say wiser than politicians and harmless as doves. And harmless as Gandhi. Thank you for that, Andrew. Beautiful, beautiful. That same capacity to discern in others, you just consistently turn that on yourself, right? Which will free you of any remaining egoic tendencies, and then go deeply into the sense I am, which will completely eradicate it. Because the sense I am, unlike the sense of a separate self, does not need any kind of external validation or definition. It is self-luminous. Beautiful. Robert Hill. Hello, Robert. Anja from Germany. Sarah. Hello, Sarah in France. Red rose for you. Hello. Sometimes when I keep reminding myself that I'm nothing and nothing is real, I feel bad, because I feel I'm also denying the feeling of love for my heart, and that love I feel for nature. And also when I want to give myself love, I think, but I'm nothing, and it's not real. Okay, that's a misunderstanding. Love is real, absolutely, and you are real. You're not nothing, right? This is such a mistake. And again, it's when we take non-dual ideas, non-dual language, and we try to fit it in to the context of our current understanding of things. Christ put it beautifully, as always. He said, you can't put new wine into old wineskins. He said, it'll even break the skin, right? It'll certainly taste horrible, right? Nobody's going to want a glass of that at the end of the day if this is old, And this is what happens. We're taking an idea of the no thingness. And so if somebody says nothing, you hear a non-dual teacher say nothing, you are nothing or nobody, right? And we hear that as just this horrible instability. I'm nothing. I'm just nothing. And the Buddha was accused of that. He was accused of nihilism, that we're nothing at all. And it's not like that. You're not a thing. You're very much real, right? Are you not? Are you not here? Are you not cognizing? Are you not conscious? Are you not hearing my words? Well, that's real, isn't it? Right? That's as real as it gets, right? And understanding that my reality is an absolute fixed fact gives rise to the reality of others that's a fixed fact. And that reality is what we call love. Now, Nisargadatta put it beautifully. He said, to know that you are nothing is wisdom. You are not a thing is wisdom. To know that you are everything is love. Between these two, my life flows. So we don't want to get stuck in the nothingness. Yeah, it's vacuous, it's empty. It's like I'm alone, right? But you're not. And you're not nothing. You're just not a thing. You're not an object of mind. You're not an emotional or physical pattern. You're not a sensation. You're not a concept. You're not a memory. Right? You are that to which it all appears. And consciousness is not a thing. The mind cannot grasp existence or beingness as formless. To the mind, in order for something to exist, it must have a form. And so the mind hears this nothingness or no thingness and immediately is frightened of this void. It's oblivion. There's nothing there. Right? Well, there's very much something there, isn't there? You're hearing me, right? That sense of being is not an illusion. That's real. Right? It's just not a thing. It's not a formless, bound thing. Forms arise from it. Forms appear to it. Forms are made of it. And so that essential no thingness, or in Buddhism they would call it shunyata, or emptiness. That emptiness is actually form. The two are one. And so the true wisdom, right, the wisdom of nothingness manifests itself in the absolute love of everything. Right? So let yourself love. Of course you love. Of course. What else is worth doing other than loving? What is the most natural thing in the world for us to do? And, the more safe you feel, let's say something really good happens to you. What do? What's the first thing you do? You want to tell someone about it. You want to share it. Now, is that an illusion? Oh my God, no. This is the nature of being. You are love itself. Now, does love have a boundary? Is there a limit on the number of ways love can express itself? And isn't every single aspect of love, every expression of love, right? Be it love of my work, love of art, intimacy of love, physical love, emotional love, familial love, love of friends, love of nature. Are those not all aspects of the same thing? Right? We call them all love. Why? Because they are all love. Right? They're all an expression of the same essential principle. But try to imagine that principle without its expression. Now, it's obvious that it exists whether it's expressed or not. Music exists whether or not we're hearing a song or not. The laws of aerodynamics exist. They've existed forever, since the Earth had an atmosphere, right? Even though no one ever saw an airplane. Right? So love, in its essence, is formless. It's boundless. It has no limits. It's infinite. Right? And every single expression of it, right, is it. You are that which is inexpressible. Think of yourself as pure love. Right? And every loving act you do is the act of love itself. Love is another name for you. What would existence be if it was just nothing? First off, just nothing. Well, we wouldn't be able to have this conversation if it was really nothing, right? Or if it was just this empty existence and nothing else. What an infinite bore, infinite torment, actually. The nature of life is love. And you can tell, because I can tell in your question, but it's like, I love nature. I'm not supposed to love nature. I mean, who comes up with these? Not you. I mean, this is non-dual. This is non-dual nonsense that you've heard from some neo-Advaita teacher, focusing all on that aspect, completely denying the visceral experience we have that is love known. Being, consciousness, bliss. Sat Chit Ananda. Being known, love known is bliss. It is the experience of perpetual happiness. Okay? Does that help you? Red rose for you? Was that a nice red rose for you? And everybody, because I know everybody has this experience as they're coming into the non-dual inquiry. We have to wrestle with this fear of oblivion, this fear of I'm not going to exist. That which you are not, right, is not going to exist because it never did. It was just a mistake. But you can't not exist. You can't go into oblivion. Only that which isn't can go into oblivion. That which is cannot. How can it? It's what is. Does that help, Red Rose? Does that kind of bring you back into your heart? In the beginning, this non-dual kind of approach, for most people, it starts as being insight, intellect. Things begin to make sense. There's kind of a seeing that takes place, and for many, they stop there. Oh, I got it now, and it becomes purely conceptual, right? Until life starts throwing stuff. I did that. I was up there for a while, and then life was going, oh brother, this kid just doesn't get it. And then I started throwing rocks started happening, and bruises and hot soup on my lap, just kind of waking me up to the bigger dimension of this, which is the dimension of the heart. My teacher's teacher was Ramana Maharshi, right? And for him, the heart and the true self and the para Atman and the ultimate were all the same. It was the heart. And he was always emphasizing the heart, right? It was always getting back to the heart of the issue. The most famous and most remarkable of all the Buddhist sutras is the Heart Sutra. It is the heart of Buddhism. It is the heart of you. If it gets stuck in your head, you'll feel it, because you'll feel a disconnect from life. Let it come south. Let it just sink into your heart so it begins to be felt. And you completely allow and accept all feeling. And then that wisdom begins to sort through all the feeling, to kind of dissolve what's not necessary, amplify that which is closer and closer to the truth. And little by little, it sinks into the whole body until you are simply the truth incarnate. You are the Word made flesh. You are love. And visibly, viscerally, noticeably, you are love. But knowing that you are nothing, are not a thing, right? Of course, you have to be something to even know that, don't you? So it just means you're not a thing. Recognizing that, it immediately begins to sink into the heart. And from there, you begin to feel life. And from there, you become one with it. The boundary between self and other disappears. Between you and nature disappears. Between me and the camera I'm looking at disappears. Everything just disappears into this incredible oneness that is also manyness. It is beyond explanation. Thank you for that question, Red Rose, for you, because it is so important and so many people get caught there. So hopefully I have just released you from that trap. Florian, me. Oh boy, jumped ahead on me. Mi paz comprende. You understand paz. I'm not sure what paz is. I don't remember. My Spanish is really rusty. Mi paz comprende. Past. Anybody who understands Spanish, let me know what that is. I know it's something, and I'm close, but paz, I remember it vaguely. Nazrin from Ireland. Hello, Nazrin. Maknija. Hello, Jeeb. This is Aaron from Canada. Always great talk with grace and gratitude. Hi, Aaron. Andrew, do you have any views on Osho? I have found him very useful. Yes, I do. I love Osho. I love everything he did. He was one of the smartest, most intelligent people who ever lived. But he also went crazy. Was he fully enlightened? I don't think so. Who could tell? I mean, that's really it's even irresponsible for me to say something like that. Because he just understood absolutely everything, but something was obviously off, right? Something went sideways when, I don't know if you saw that. I don't remember what the name of it is now, but it was a very long, like 6-hour documentary on him and his ashram in the U.S. in Oregon, actually, and eventually with armed guards. They had weapons. It was I think he went crazy. Is what happens. But just because he was crazy doesn't mean that what he had to say, what he wrote, doesn't have value, right? I also love the work of Trungpa Rinpoche, Crazy Wisdom and I. He also went crazy. He was also, I think there is an opportunity on the verge of the deep awakening for all of the stuff, all of the unprocessed material to come up. And somebody can actually be, if they're not careful, find themselves in the midst of insanity, in the midst of an addiction, in the midst of all sorts of things that seem overwhelming, right? Because they're right on the verge, they're right on the cusp, right? You have been removed by so much of what so much of the assumptions, right? But have not yet really stabilized in the actual truth of being. And I think it probably arises from it hasn't sunk enough into the heart. Because Osho was off the charts brilliant, right? But I think I sense something about it, maybe just something that about the heart, that it was too reliant on intellect. And I think that was true of Trungpa Rinpoche. Because he did go crazy. He was doing really wacky stuff and taking advantage of his female students and basically drank himself to death by the time he's late 40s. So addiction as well, right? So it's another vigilance. We have to be vigilant. But again, I don't consider that we should reject what he wrote out of hand. I've read his book of secrets. I've read a lot of his stuff, and it's brilliant. It's off the chart brilliant, and it's opening, and it's really helpful. But I can tell you from somebody who did get stuck in the intellect, that let this sink into your heart. Let the kind of crazy stuff that began to happen should have warned him, just like stuff happening in my life warned me, and I heard the warning. Of course, I was not sitting at the pinnacle with all sorts of people around and thinking it was this, already being a god like Trungpa and Osho were, or Rajneesh at the time. He was an Osho. They changed his name afterwards to kind of disconnect from all of that. So I didn't have that kind of adulation, right? If I had, that could, mental illness runs in my family, right? My mother was crazy. My aunt was crazy. Many of my aunts and uncles were crazy. My cousin was a psychopath, literally a psychopath. That was so good at killing after the after 3 or 4 tours in Vietnam, he became the army put him to work teaching others how to kill because he was so good at it. Right. So this is my family. So you are damn right that I am vigilant about this kind of stuff. Right. So I think it just behooves us all to realize that somebody even that advanced could fall over, could fall off. Something just, vigilance. Be vigilant to your dying breath. Stay vigilant, right? And you won't get fooled. You won't get tricked, right? Because the mind has kept us. The ego has kept us engaged for thousands of lifetimes, maybe millions, right? Our sense of time is limited to the earth. It's 4 billion years old and life has appeared so long. But forget that. Forget that. That's just this iteration, right? It's actually timeless, right? You had millions of lives, right? Every one of them we've gotten seduced, right? Right? Everyone has kept us engaged, right? So be vigilant, right? This is your time. This is your time to awaken, right? And so the more you are doing that, the more you're going to discern and discriminate within all the literature, all the writings, all the people, what was the awakened and what was still the darkness that was hanging there. Right? And then when you're discerning, you can take the pure stuff and you can leave the others. You can take the gold and leave the dross behind. So I hope that answers it for you, Andrew. Johanna, so good to see you, my friend in Mexico. Anne said, I also enjoyed the retreat, in all caps with 3 exclamation points. So I guess you really enjoyed it. Wonderful. Roberto, my friend, good to see you. P.S. Hello from Germany. Hello to you. Roberto, I loved your video on how the nervous system works, GP. A great lesson on the human being and how it works. Perfect. Yes. Yes, that discovery was such an eye-opener to me. And believe me, it only happened when I came out of my head and into my heart. When I begin to feel things in my body, did that begin to open up, that whole area. And my, the remaining arrogance just had to fall away, because I realized, compared to that, how stupid I was, how many assumptions I brought, how confident I was in my intellect, right? And then life just kept trying to bring me back into the body, and eventually I surrendered to it, and it led to the discovery of inner reconciliation, which is this is how the nervous system works, which is why I created that whole series of courses, which I highly recommend to people. So thank you for that. I'm so glad, because once you understand it, right, you can become free of it. The first thing, you can become free of blaming yourself for what in fact is a programmed response. It's not even you. You just mistook it for you. Right? This is great. By the way, how do you like the new set? This is my living room, my new living room, which actually my living room. Right over there is the kitchen, because it's one room, and right over there is my office. But I kind of like doing satsang sitting here on the couch, because it seems very homey and comfortable. So I hope you're all enjoying the new digs. Awareness. Will you be doing a retreat for Christmas, New Year's? No. I will probably, I want to do something. I like to do something in between Christmas and New Year's, because a lot of people like it. So I may do some kind of a workshop or something. Maybe a one day self-inquiry workshop. That's actually a good idea. These days, my attention keeps going more and more to helping people with self-inquiry through the heart, and rather than just the mind, than some of the other courses that I've done. I will be doing another EFT coach training, because I find EFT so very, very useful for people. It's so very, very helpful. So potent for helping us really alleviate suffering for ourselves and also for others. Because I know a lot of people, they need some kind of tool to be able to help alleviate suffering for others. And that's such a hard thing that I want to support that. So I teach people how to do EFT. But those of you who have taken my EFT coach training know that there's all sorts of self-inquiry in it, because it's a tool to help with self-realization. Because once you know who you are, the suffering dissolves. It's really that simple. So I'll be doing that probably in January, towards the end of January, I'll be doing some other kind of class in February, and then I have the retreat coming up at the end of March, and then probably sometime around June, I'll be doing another EFT coach training. So I'll be letting everybody know. Make sure you're on my mailing list. If you're not, just send an email to support@GP Walsh, and I'll get you on it. Kieran, hello, Kieran. Kieran in Alabama. So good to see you. That kind of lets you know. Make sure you're on my mailing list, Awareness. Penny, look forward to any treat with Sifu and everyone. Profound learning. Oh, thanks, Penny. Well, shoot. Well, shoot. I'm not sure what that means. Well, like, gosh darn it. Well, shoot, Daryl. Robert, hey, GP. When my workload is too big, I get very anxious. I know I can do only one thing at a time, but I can't stop getting stressed out. It is so hard to control. It's hard to control. All right. Now, the first thing you have to do is you have to stop telling yourself it's hard to control, right? The very fact that you believe it's hard to control makes it hard to control and increases the stress, right? What if that thought never occurred to you? Really, what if all the workload was there, right? But the thought, it's too big. It's hard to control. I am stressed. If those thoughts never occurred to you, right? So let's break it down, right? Break it down. The workload goes up, right? And the nervous system, which only wants to do one thing at a time, okay? It doesn't want to multitasking is a nice word for self-abuse, right? It's outrageous. We weren't built to do it. If you try to multitask, the quality of everything you do is less, right? And it creates stress in the system because we are designed to focus attention. In our modern world, it puts a strain on that capacity, even making it seem like it's virtuous that we don't, right? And what happens? Inevitably, right, the nervous system reacts to that because it's not designed for it. It's not supposed to do that. It doesn't want to do that, right? And yet now, culturally, we're saying we're supposed to be able to do that. It's nonsense. Or the technical term for it is it's bullshit. Okay, so what do? Sit back, stop, right? Recognize what's happening. Recognize this energy is beginning to flow, right? And recognize that your body is saying it's too much, right? And the feeling that it's too much is genuine. Now what happens? The mind says, I got more to do. I have to do it. I can't do it. I can't control this. That's all mind. Just stick with the feeling. No story, no nothing, right? Come back to what is here and now. And your body is feeling like it's too much. All right. Make it not too much. Get up, walk away. Show your authority over it, right? Give your body what it needs just this moment, right? And as you say, I can only do one thing at a time, but let that sink in, right? Because on one hand, there's this notion I can only do one thing at a time, which is true, right? And you only want to do one thing at a time. Your body, the whole nervous system, was only made to do one thing at a time, and you want to do one thing really, really well. But here's the thing: you say, "I know I can only do one thing at a time." But simultaneously, there's all these other beliefs that have been instilled in you and a world around you that keeps telling you that you're inadequate in some way if you can't multitask, if you can't do a whole bunch of things at once, right? So that knowing that you can only do things at once is running into a lot of resistance. And depending on the job you have, there can be jobs that are trying to force that to happen, because they're trying to squeeze blood out of a turnip, right? They're trying to get more productivity out of doing the very thing that actually destroys productivity. So do you really know that? If you really know that you can only do one thing at a time, you'll only do one thing at a time. You will not compromise that, because you know it leads to suffering. It leads to exactly the opposite of what you're being pressured to do. And then you just dismiss all these ideas. I can't control it. Of course you can control it. It's not true. You can't control it, right? It's just a thought that's sunk in there, right? That tries to force you into the model that's being forced by the culture. Don't buy it, right? It's hard to control. No, it's not. Right? It's hard to control if you believe it's hard to control, right? And if you think somehow this idea that you should be doing a bunch of different things is right. It's wrong. It's absolutely false. Right? Go back to what you intuitively, instinctively know. I can only do one thing at a time. And then you do whatever you can to pull your attention away from all that other stuff, to bring it to this moment. Stop. Stop everything. And just breathe. Bring yourself back to center. And then put your attention on what needs to be in that moment. And if the stress starts to arise again, cut it. And by cutting it, what I mean is refuse to go along with it. Stop it all. Yeah, there's a lot to do. I'm not doing any of it. I'm taking care of me. And just go back to that place. Reestablish yourself. Believe me, after a while, this will become less and less intimidating, and you will become more and more powerful. And what will happen is you'll get through that mountain of work, and it won't feel like a mountain of work. It'll almost do itself, because you will be pure presence. All of these things invite us to go absent, invite us to go unconscious. Does that help, Robert? Daryl, I've been sitting here waiting on the reminder I set, and I've been missing it anyway. Hello, GP and all from Maryland. Don't think anything of it. Right? I have like 3 different calendars that tell me stuff because I'm just oblivious to that kind of stuff. Just great quote from Adams, Douglas Adams, the guy who wrote Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. He says, I love deadlines. I love the sound, the whooshing sound they make as they go by. Perfect. Thanks, GP. Not sure about feeling compassion for politicians, but I take the point. No, I agree. It's hard to feel compassionate for somebody who has no compassion and is more than willing to, to watch others die for their benefit. Yeah, but you can see the depravity of the ego, right? And realize that these people are trapped in it. And the only thing they're going to reap from it, they think they're reaping wealth and power and influence and all that. What they are reaping is suffering. They just don't know it, but you know it. And that's where the compassion will come from, right? They are forging chains around their neck, like Jacob Marley said to Scrooge. Right? Anja, a great answer to Andrew's question. Thank you. Thank you very much, Anja. Jay, my man, who had a baby during our retreat. Well, he didn't. His wife did, of course, but he was there for the event, and we all got to be the first ones to meet it. It was wonderful. Hello, G and everyone. I might not have any questions for you today. I understood what acceptance really means over these past couple of days, and any question asked would only satisfy the mind. Also, I accepted the conditioned responses in me to the environment because what I am, no matter the intensity of those responses, stands apart, and it has become so easy to access that. So wonderful to hear you say that. Let's go on. Let's continue there. I also noticed how I'm delayed in my response to the environment, having the attention placed on myself. I'll be aware of what's said or asked, but I won't respond right away, or my brain wouldn't process it right away. I guess it's a byproduct of being. Yes, of course it is. This is the natural state. This is the natural, this is how we respond to life when it is no longer the robot, when it is no longer just our conditioning responding. This is what it is. It's competent, it's measured, it's creative, it's compassionate, it's patient, it's wise. Right? Because the response is not coming from conditioning anymore. It's coming from the self. And the self is infinite wisdom, infinite intelligence, infinite creativity. So yes, very naturally, you're simply not going to react the same way, right? Because the reactive mechanism is being taken offline. The reactivity is all conditioning. It's all just the nervous system and the way it's been trained. As we step out of that, right, and the nervous system calms down, right, the conditioning dissipates, and what happens? The nervous system goes from its defensive posture into the expressive posture. It becomes the instrument through which wisdom and compassion and love and intelligence get expressed. And that manifests itself in love, in patience, in compassion, in tolerance, in humor, in wit, in dancing, in all sorts of things. The way it manifests the pure joy of being. Thank you, Jay. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Yes. And if a question comes up, that's okay. If it doesn't, even better. David and Elaine, we heard a quote recently. A person who seems least deserving of love is the one who needs it the most. Amen. Because the one who seems least deserving is the one you don't want to give it to. But how did they become that way? You know, how did politicians become the way they did? You know, how did a Donald Trump become the way he did, or Mitch McConnell, or a Chuck Schumer? I'm going to give equal credit to both sides. They're all divorced from themselves, and we look at them and we want to be angry at them. But what happened? How did that happen? Right? They were not loved. It's all a compensation for self-rejection, to become something powerful and and assertive and the like. Right? Interesting to reflect on when we are faced by the least likable people in the world. Yes. And to discover, what is it in me that is so reactive to them? Well, it's my ego. Any ego I have left is going to react to the ego of someone else. It's a good sign, right? As Ram Dass would say, if you want to find out if you're really enlightened, go stay with your family for a week. It's good, right? If I feel a reaction, I go, okay, there's still some part in me that isn't willing to give love. It's demanding something first, right? That's the unloved part of me. It's not something I got to get rid of this. I got to get rid of it. It's there's some part of me that I have not loved, that has not been accepted, it's not been embraced, that is still hiding, defending, compensating, trying to be someone. It needs my love, right? And what's the difference? If I here or over there, what's the difference? There isn't any. And the degree that I move through that here, to that very degree, everyone becomes lovable in my sight. Not lovable in the sense that I like what they're doing, but I can see through it. I can see the innocent, hurting, unloved child at the center of all that programmed behavior. And at that point, I can find them innocent, as Christ did. Father, find them innocent. They don't know what they're doing. He saw that original innocence in them that had not been touched, and that they're just completely immersed unconsciously in what in fact is not them at all. Right? The mistaking of the conditioning that we all experience for ourselves. That's why the self-inquiry is so potent and so important, because it takes you out of identification with the conditioning back to the reality of who you are and have always been. And at that point, you don't need pardon in that sense of forgiveness, because you see, you are never the guilty party. You are vindicated of all wrongdoing. It's so sweet. Yanis, hello. Hello from Greece, and thank you for the great retreat last week. You said that the self does not have karma, but the ego does. Since the ego is a biological robot, what happens to the concept of responsibility? Is the whole thing a cosmic dream somehow? Um, all blame and all that feeling of, I'm guilty, I did all this stuff wrong is gone, but responsibility, well, I'm still responsible, right? I mean, I was acting out my conditioned patterns. I hurt people, I betrayed people, I lied to people, I took advantage of people, right? All ignorantly. The fact that it was ignorant sets me free, right? It sets me free from the guilt and the shame and all of that. But the responsibility of it, living with the consequences of it, well, that's still going to be there for a while. But the moment I'm back in touch with my essential innocence, I'm not creating any more. I have actually stepped out of karma. And because of the fact that there's not a lot of guilt and shame anymore, the impact of those things becomes less and less. Plus, the beauty of it is that opportunities open up for you to recompense, to make do, or to make amends, to bring love where you had brought and light where you'd brought darkness before, right? So it is a beautiful. It's not amoral. It doesn't take responsibility away. It simply empowers you to fulfill it in such a way that it isn't just a band-aid. It's actually healing in the deepest sense. Is the whole thing a cosmic dream? Yes. Yes, it is. And that's the ultimate awakening, right? But if prematurely, right, you grasp that somehow, ideologically or spiritually or something, and try to jump to that, right? It's all a cosmic dream. You could very easily go into spiritual bypass or denial, right? The fact that it's a cosmic dream does not change the fact that you are experiencing it. And your awakening from the cosmic dream paradoxically means a complete embracing of it, right? You don't wake up from the dream, right, by, I'm in the dream now. Okay, I realize I'm in a dream, so I don't care about the dream anymore. In the dream, you begin to express the reality of your true nature as absolute perfect love. That's how you do it. So that perfect love, which is beyond the dream, intrudes itself in the dream. Right? And that's what you experience as a sage, right? The true sages, the Ramana Maharshis and Buddhas and Christ and Mujis of the world, right, are simply that. They are that awakening manifesting itself in the dream. And so they become the alarm clock. You become the means by which somebody else awakens to the fact that it's a dream. Right? And so you take responsibility, but not the burden of it. It becomes a joy, an utter joy of making amends and seeing all the stupid things you did when you were asleep. It becomes quite a cosmic joke. And as a result, you have just enormous patience and compassion for all of those that are still doing the stupid things. This is the path of the bodhisattva, right? It's not trying to get out of it, right? Matter of fact, it's already taken a step out and decides to go back in for the benefit of, for the opportunity to express love in this particular manifestation. Does that answer it for you, Giannis? Such a pleasure having you there. Yeah, and thank you for correcting me about the origin of the word ego. I said it was Latin, and in fact, it was Greek, and I knew that. I just mistook it. Amakija. Did I say that right? Hi, G. I was intrigued by ideas from the law of one recently, especially the choice between service to others and service to self. How do you best serve the world? How would you best align your actions and decisions? Well, you can't, excuse me a second. You cannot serve the world when you are beholden to it. When you still think the world has something to give you, right? Your relationship with the world can't possibly be one of service, right? Because you have to get something from it. Right? You need something from it, right? When you're free of that, when you see that the world and all that it has to offer can't really give you what you need, what you want, right? At that point, you're free to give, right? Because there's nothing left to give. And that's the real meaning of the service of Seva Yoga or Karma Yoga. It is, and it is a path to get to that, because in the beginning it's imperfect. We're doing things, but sometimes there's an egoic pride in serving, isn't there? Right? And we have to be careful of that. That doesn't demean the genuineness of our desire to be of service to others, but we see that it's still colored, it's still tainted, that there's still self-interest there. Right? But you cannot purge yourself of self-interest without purging the self that has the self-interest. Right? You cannot get rid of the suffering until you're free of the sufferer. Right? So this path is different than other paths in that it is not a path of a purification where you are becoming pure and pure and pure. It's a recognition that which we are trying to make pure and pure and pure is itself unreal. It's not who you really are. And all the purification process in the world is not going to get you there. Yes, it will make you more kind. It will make you more compassionate. It will make you more present. It will make you more nuanced and subtle, more self-sacrificing. But that sense of self is still there. And that sense of self is the problem. And it's only this non-dual inquiry that reveals that. All spiritual practices are to improve that self. And who can argue with that, right? I'd much rather be in a room full of well-behaved egos than a bunch of misbehaving egos, right? A bunch of arrogant. I'd much rather be sitting in an ashram or in a zendo than in Congress, right? Because there's less ego there, right? And so of course it's an improvement, right? But at some point, you begin to realize that improvement of the self is an endless cycle. It never stops, because the self you're trying to improve is a moving target. It doesn't actually exist. And now it becomes a very different thing. Right? And at this point, the service to myself and the service to the world become one. The more I am me, really me, the more present I am, the more I am giving, the more this other person, this other self that does need something, right, is vacated, and the more the true self, which needs nothing, is present. And it needs nothing. What is it? It's pure love. It's pure giving. But it's giving in such a way that even the receiving of it is felt differently. Right? And even the receiving of it is a liberation from the false sense of self. And there may even come opportunities where you can show the difference, where you can show why your giving is different, right? Why this entire thing is that the real culprit, the real mischief maker, is that sense of I that isn't real. And for you, there is no I. Or I and we they fall apart, or there's no I at all. Either one. I'm everything or I'm nothing. Doesn't matter. I'm not a thing or I'm everything, right? It amounts to the same. At that point, you are not practicing Seva Yoga. You are Seva Yoga. Does that answer it for you, Amakija? Penny, Krishnamurti says, I love you and you don't have to love me back. I don't care. Yes. Yes. Matter of fact, I love you even more when you don't love me back, because you need it more. Yeah. I don't love to be loved back. That's a business. That's not even love. That's a business deal. That's a transaction. That's not love. Love requires, it's self-illuminating. It is self-sustaining. It is self-existent. It does not require anything to feed it, right? That's why, when you're love or you're in love, right? Your energy is virtually unlimited. Why? Because the energy of love is unlimited. When it becomes tainted, when it becomes a business deal, right now energy has to come from something someplace else. So my love is dependent upon the love of somebody else, right? When that's no longer the case, I love you. I don't care. You don't have to love me back. Not a problem. I'm just going to love you. Right? It's self-sustained. You'll find the unlimited, endless, inexhaustible fountain of energy. And that's the nature of love. Beautiful. I love Krishnamurti. Red rose for you. Yes, thank you. Oh, good. I wanted to bring you enormous relief and an enormous sense of the value of your love. Even though it seems personal, right? Because I'm feeling it, right? The love isn't personal, right? It's way beyond that. But it's experienced individually. And we simply mistake that individual experience as being personal. This is what Buddha means when he says the personal realization of Buddha knowledge. It doesn't say the abstract or universal, although in other places they're one and the same. The personal realization of Buddha knowledge. There's something significant about every individual awakening. Because, of course, you don't really care about the Buddha's awakening. You only care about your own. Your awakening is what matters, right? And that's the way it should be. Who cares about me or anybody else, right? Or Nisargadatta or Christ. Great. Nice examples. Wonderful. But what about me? About me. That's what matters. The personal realization. That is the appearing of the universal truth in the middle of this stream. So it is experienced as an event. That's the only way it's known. Like, music is not known unless there is a song. Universal truth is experienced as the awakening in this stream. So enjoy your awakening. Right? Let's see. Skipped again. Where do we at? David Elaine. Hey, Jay. Hope mom, dad, and baby son are doing well. Such a privilege to share some of the first images of your new baby on last week's retreat. It was really fun. Anja, David, I agree with you so much. Nice quote. Mary Sykes. Hello, Mary. Good to see you. Paz means peace. Understand. Peace. I understand peace. No, it's not a comprende. Me, peace, understood. Beautiful. Thank you. I think that person meant to say mi paz comprende. My peace understands. Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. My Spanish was never great, but I almost functional. Kiran, Namaste, GP. Any views on David Hawkins' map of consciousness? I'm not really familiar with it. Right? I understand he was a non-dual teacher. It seems to be genuine to me, not stuck in his head. And so his map of consciousness, I use EFT, I created inner reconciliation. So these tools to help to facilitate an individual awakening are always valid, right? And I'm not familiar about that one, so I can't really comment on it, but I can just comment in general that these things, they have value. If they help you come to know who you are, and don't get you stuck in a particular point of view, good, lovely, valuable. So, Sarah, my first psychotherapist ran off and abandoned her husband's kids, the dog, and us her patience to go live with Osho. Yes, that there was a dark side to Osho. Yeah, there really was. And again, I just, if somebody's getting something out of Osho's writings, then I say, great, right? I have, right? To discern, to be discriminating, right? Just because somebody had the adulation and wrote all these wonderful things doesn't mean there weren't other things that might be wrong. There was a dark side to it, and it eventually showed itself. And many people ran off to devote themselves to Osho. And people gave their fortunes, their lives. And this happened with a lot of gurus, right? And he was crazy. he went crazy. I can't think of any good reason why someone would spend money on 98 Rolls Royces to make a point, to help somebody's spiritual growth or awakening, or as you said, it was to show the stupidity of the materialism of the world by indulging that very simply made no sense. It made no sense to me, still doesn't. And yes, be vigilant. Take things with a grain of salt. Just because somebody's got a big following or seems to be what they are, trust your gut. No genuine guru will ask you to do things like that. No genuine guru will encourage you to do things like that. They won't demean you. They won't diminish you. They won't intimidate you. They won't try to take advantage of you, especially sexually. They simply won't do that. They will not seek anything from you, right? That's a true guru, right? If they do, they're not the real thing, right? Run, don't walk away. Faith. Hey, my sheik. I get non-duality only intellectually, and when I hear teachers talking about the law of attraction, it's supposed to reflect what you are, I feel a loser. I feel in a country where I'm in danger if my family discovered I left Islam. I tried hard to manifest an immigration to another country, but life did not give me that. I'm living a life where I'm afraid of my home, afraid of my own family. I'm in depression and have suicidal thoughts. I can't handle this condition anymore, and I can't handle hiding who I am and living this hypocritical life. I tried to manifest an immigration, but life refused to give me that. Is there more here? Looks like I got it all. My dear girl. Okay. Now, first, I would accept, yes, you're Islam, which is very fundamentalist in nature, very critical, not a lot of compassion, at least the way it's become, like Christianity has, and some Judaism is very, very, very strict. Fundamentalist Christianity, which is tented now pretty much dominates the scene. No compassion whatsoever, no tolerance for anything outside of it. And I've worked with people who, one guy's a student of mine, is a gay guy who grew up with a fundamentalist Baptist preacher father. Talk about self, self-hatred and the things that the poor guy had to go through, right? Now, first off, you're not a loser, right? I want you to understand that you're in a very, very difficult situation, right? Your heart isn't in Islam anymore, but Islam won't accept that. At least, I don't want to blanket a criticism of Islam, right? That's naive and it's stupid. It isn't universally like that. But you appear to be in a place where it is much more fundamental, and you have to do that, right? You're supposed to be able to attract a better life. That also is the dark side of the whole law of attraction thing. Yes, there's a lot of good in it, and there's a lot of truth in it. And it is true that we that we manifest things. But once again, in this approach, this path that I'm sharing with you, right? It doesn't put an emphasis on you being able to do something. It puts an emphasis on looking at the nature of the you that you think is doing all of these things, right? Now, first off, you may have to hide. You don't have to go out and announce, right? I've left Islam, especially if it puts you in danger. What's the point? There's no point in that. Nobody gains from that, right? At the same time, you feel like you're a hypocrite. Well, you're not, right? Sometimes we have to just be very wise about what we can say and what we can't, right? Right? What we need to do, and in order to look, there's no difference when you're a little kid, right? And the little kid goes through this. You are experiencing now exactly what you've experienced as a child, what we all experienced as children. We were us, right? Innocent, beautiful, sweet, just being who we are, right? Nothing artificial about it. Totally innocent and pure. But that natural expression of who we are ran into the disagreement or the discouragement or even the punishment of our tribe. So being myself became dangerous. Now this is a very deep existential disconnect for us. It's dangerous to be me, but I can't not be me. Right? So what does the child do? It begins to bury the behaviors, right, that are natural to itself, yourself. You did this, I did this, we all did this. Bury those behaviors and create new ones, right, that aren't really authentic, but get us what we need from the environment. This is what's happening. You're actually seeing it experienced now as a consciously aware adult, and more than just conscious. I mean, a deepening, deep spiritual consciousness that's seeing through this all. But what you're feeling is exactly the same you felt, and we all felt when we were little. I can't be myself, and I hate myself for not being myself. And we really did feel that way. That's why it was an existential trauma. We had to make a choice. I'm either going to live or I'm going to die. And we all chose to live. Right? I do feel that when children die early on, it's because they don't want to do that. They don't want to make that compromise. They can't, and so they do move on. And for whatever reason, they can't, right? And they're not superior because they did, right? And just kind of the way things work. So I want you to really take a nice long look at what you're experiencing, because it's an education for you that very few people get. You get to see now, as a spiritually conscious adult, the very thing that happened to you and the people who are doing it now. Okay? And believe me, if you embrace this moment with what it has to share with you, right, and the insights it will provide, and feel that conflict of having to be somebody you're not, and yet not knowing how to allow yourself to be who you really are in this environment, because it's dangerous to do so. If you really embrace this, it will be a lesson, a direct insight that many people don't get. Right? And believe me, if you do embrace it, eventually that embracing of it will find a way out of it. I swear it will, right? But first you must embrace the significance of this moment. And in so doing, you will uncover a wisdom in you. And you will also be able to reconcile that original disconnect, right? And you'll be able to maintain this genuine connection to your soul, even though in the environment, right, you can't, right? It is truly physically dangerous for you to do that. Right? not to mention emotionally in all ways, right? So you can't just thwart it, right? I wouldn't want you to just thwart it. Instead, I would want you to take advantage of this moment because it's rare and it's not insignificant, and it's really a precious gift for you. And to truly embrace it, I will also guarantee you, sooner or later, maybe more quickly than you could possibly imagine, maybe it'll take a while, a way out will appear. I swear. Oh, my love. Thank you for sharing that to me. You're a pioneer, because believe me, you're not the only one who feels that. You know, I was really surprised when I was doing a meetup. I started a meetup before COVID happened, and I had to stop it. In Seattle before I moved to New Mexico. Now I'm back, and I was really amazed that probably 40% of the people that came to the meetup were all people who had been in very strict fundamentalist Christian groups, Seventh-day and Adventists, and fundamental Baptists, Southern Baptists, and the like, who had managed to get out of it, find a way out of it. It was hard. It was really hard for them to come to terms with it, right? Because they were steeped in it, right? And then once they did, it was hard to extricate themselves, right? But consciousness was winning. Love, truth and love were winning. Something inside was burning, and it will find a way out. Right? As Rumi said, a Muslim, right? A Sufi Muslim. The power that brought me here must bring me home. Right? The insights you're having, and even the sense of conflict you're having about it, is because of this growing wisdom within you. Be patient, trust it. Don't feel like you have to manifest the way out, or that you failed because you haven't. You don't have to do it, right? And in fact, you couldn't do it. You can't do it. Nobody can do it. Nobody really manifests anything. We just happen to harmonize with what life was going to do anyway. I mean, the law of attraction is there's some truth in it. There's also delusion in it, right? So believe me, you say you get it intellectually, only intellectually. I don't buy it. I can feel it in you. And the very fact that you're feeling this conflict means that which is just stuck in the intellect is trying to move south into the heart, into the body, right? Stay with it, right? The only way out is in. Keep going in, and that doorway out into the manifestation of the inner freedom will happen. The inner freedom comes first. If you're in a prison, you're in a prison. If you're in a prison, you have to do what the guards say, right? But this is never in prison. Oh, my dear girl, thank you so much. Mary says, anyone else having a talk, trouble with the talk buffering? It may be. You can also set your settings now. It doesn't happen automatically. I guess I should tell you this in advance, to 1080p, because I have got the fastest internet service now anybody can get. It's the fiber optic. I got what Muji's got. we're going as fast as we possibly can. So you can actually set the settings for a higher resolution picture and better sound. Andrew, the set is cool. Thank you. I like it. I like it. I had them before I moved in. I had them paint the wall dark gray, and some of the walls white. And I have to say, the dark gray wall is such a perfect background. I like it. Nazim said, it's beautiful. Love your new place. Thank you. Let's see. Andrew, perfect response regarding stress, self-abuse. Thank God I learned this. Yes. Alessandra, hello from rainy Monterey. Well, hello from rainy Seattle. Yeah. Yeah. Silver Y. Oh, that's a new name. Hello, Silver. So it's hands clapping. Ah, thank you. Oh, I think you are new. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Brielle. Hi, Brielle. I think you're new too. Faith, you don't have depression. You have deep repressed emotion. Yeah. Yes. You don't have the freedom to express yourself, and it's dangerous to express yourself. Like I said, that's what we felt as children, right? What a powerful insight this 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 has to offer you. Yeah. Don't discount it. Yeah. Don't immediately just like, I got to get out of it and I'm horrible because I haven't. Not so. Jay is saying he's got, it's difficult for my older son to get situated in a new family. Yes. Yes. Actually, my son didn't have any problem with it at all. They were 18 months apart. Maybe yours is older, a little bit older. He's 2. So maybe my oldest son didn't seem to bother him that much. He really enjoyed having his little brother around. Still does. They're actually still very, very close. They have a lot of fun together. Giannis, very clear, GP. I got it all. Awesome. Very helpful. Thank you. You're welcome. Flying Eyes and Big Money. I am Cheese. Congratulations. Amahija. Thank you. You're welcome. Axnear Productions. Another. You look like new. You're new as well, as does Flying Eyes and Big Monkey. I got a question. How do we know that non-duality, no self is truth and not just altered states of mind like psychedelics would do? Very good question. And you don't intellectually. It's not something you can figure out. It's not something you can put to some kind of psychological or intellectual or discursive test, right? Because it doesn't work like that. It's not an objective science. It's subjective, right? So here's where you start, right? Yeah, and I was talking about this at the beginning. You have to start with the one thing you actually do know, right? Remember, big doubt, right? The great doubt. I talked about that in the beginning too. If you weren't here at the beginning, go back and take a listen to that, right? Doubt non-duality, not doubt Buddhism, doubt no self, doubt it all, absolutely all. Do not take anything, right, that you haven't proven for yourself. Take absolutely everything for checking. Right? Now, when you do that, you find that all human knowledge is suspect, including this. Some teacher going off about this or that, whatever, right? Don't take anything at face value. Right? So what do you do instead? Well, where do I, you can't solve an equation without at least one constant. You end up with just a sea of possibilities and nothing substantive. Where can we stick the stake in the ground? Do I have a point of reference? Something I do know. I mean, all science is based on that. All mathematics, all the higher mathematics is based on certain axioms, right? Or principles, things that are just presumed, A equals A, right? A plus B equals C, right? There's these things that to try to put a stake in the ground where it's absolutely concrete. This I know, right? Now, the thing about science, as wonderful and as beautiful as it is that it and the power of it and its willingness to question assumptions, right? Which is why it's so critical of religion. Its willingness to question the assumptions is shown that all of that is presumed. Newton's laws are true, but relatively show it's not totally true. And even our laws of physics are only a result of this particular iteration of the Big Bang, right? So they're not absolute. They're only absolute in this iteration. Is there an absolute, right? Is there anything that I can put where I can put a stake in the ground? Well, there's only one thing, right? I am. I exist. And I know I exist. Right? What I am? I don't know. Am I dual? Am I non-dual? Am I this body? Am I not this body? I don't know. How would I know? How could I actually determine if that was true or not? Well, I have to start with the only thing I do know. I am. That's it. There's your stake in the ground. You exist. As what? As who? Am I just a product of the material process? Just this transient consciousness that came on the scene, 13.8 billion years later, right? Kind of at the end of time, where we are right now. Is consciousness just a function of the processes of matter? Is it just an emergent property? Is that all there is to me? Well, how do I know if I don't look at the only thing I know about me and my own existence? If I don't peer, right, into my own existence and really become more interested in that than anything else, because that's all I got, right? And my own existence, I can't look to anybody else to verify it, right? It's completely self-verified. I know it. And I can't step outside of my own existence to examine myself, right? So I'm forced through my own subjectivity to look at myself as myself, my experience of being, right? Because I can't step outside of that. I have to look at it from the inside, which is why general human knowledge and even the scientific method at this point becomes useless, because it requires subject-object relationship and an examination from those in those terms. This doesn't apply. Scientific method does not apply to self-exploration. I have to first assume myself to be some kind of material process. That needs to be doubted too. What if I'm not? What if consciousness is self-existent? Right? Well, if it is, well, we have a very different view of the universe. How would I know that's true? Don't just accept it because I say so. Please. And then it's just another belief, right? It doesn't become absolute conviction. It doesn't become a direct seeing. Explore it for yourself. Explore your own being. Spend time with the sense I am and nothing else. Right? And then it will reveal itself to you. How's that, my friend? Oxenair Productions 12. Nice. Robert Hill, thanks, GP. It's no coincidence our paths crossed. Much love and sending positive energy to you. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Faith, how to embrace it? I think I answered that all right. If I didn't, let's see. Yeah, that's how you embrace it, through wisdom, through understanding, through recognizing what's going on. And through that recognition, your heart just opens to say, okay, right? Nothing I've tried worked, right? I really want to find my freedom, right? That's it. Just focus your attention on the one desire of finding your freedom, inner freedom first. Find it here. It'll take care of out here, right? I want my freedom here, and I don't need physical freedom. I don't need to be let out of prison to be free, because that's just superficial. There's lots of people who are not in prison and they're not free. It has to be found here, and you will. Trust me, you will. Mary says, you're now talking about my issue, religious indoctrination. Please do the course you were talking about. Oh, right. The Christian mystic. Yes. Yes. There's that one, and then there's the 4 powers of creation. Those are the 2 that are kind of competing now for which one I should do. I clearly know where your vote is, Mary. Penny. Faith, perfect the way you are. You're not alone. We're all here with you. Amen to that. Yeah. You do have a family. We're right here. Right? Even though you don't interact with us every day, You can revisit these every day, the chats and everything, and we're with you every day. Yeah, David and Elaine, our thoughts and compassion are with you, Faith. Yes. Oh, can you feel the love that's being poured out to you right now? Everyone here has had a similar experience. We all went through it, and most are just beginning to become conscious of that we all went through it. Right. So, Klesu, good to see you. I've been feeling depression as I have not in many years. So many memories of my past. It's okay. Let them come. The feeling of depression is simply the nervous system reeling under some of the revelations. Also feeling, when our understanding of things that we've relied on is seen through and starts to become questionable, right? Remember, our whole nervous system has been operating on the assumption that these basic truths were in fact true and I could rely on them. What happens when you can't rely on them anymore? Well, it's disorienting, it's upsetting, and the nervous system can kind of react. It can get angry, it can get desperate, it can even get depressed. You can even say, my God, I'm powerless. But the recognition of the powerlessness and the embracing of it, paradoxically, leads to power. A new power emerges. It will. I guarantee it. It will. By embracing the moment as it is. Remember, we were all trained to resist what's happening, even when it's for our benefit. Resistance is the nature of the egoic mind. In fact, the ego is just another word for resistance, right? For that voice that says, I don't like this, I don't want this, I want something else, this got to change, this got to go. That voice is the ego. That I that it's referring to, I don't like this, is the ego. It's not you. So even a depression, just stay with it with the deepest compassion for yourself. Because what is it that you really want? Freedom. Freedom from everything that isn't true. Freedom to be and experience what you really are, which also means the power of expressing it. That's all we want. So stay with that. It will guide absolutely everything else. Faith says, thanks for you, G, and everyone else for your words and compassion. Yes, you are so loved, my dear. So loved. David and Lane, thank you for sharing. Jay, you're welcome. Mary says, I love what you said about Osho, as I love his books very much. They calibrate very high, but hearing the stuff come out about him from Shella, his secretary, and Osho's own words were like, I was listening to two different people. You were. Yeah. It is a form of madness, a self-disconnect that brings about a kind of a schizophrenia. Like this side does not know what this side is doing. So yeah, there's just this torrent of wisdom out of one side and this utter madness out of the other. I used to think that, these people got there, that everything about them was perfect. Boy, did that come crashing down. The ones that are, you can tell, you can feel it, because of course they're not going to ask you to carry a gun. They're not going to ask for money, right? The ones that have truly transcended it are going to ask nothing from you. They're going to be nothing but love and giving, because they don't need anything. Silver Y. Gee, I may be new on chat, but you helped me a lot to quiet my mind through your videos. Thanks so much for that. Also, I have a question. Do you have any thoughts about twin flames? Yeah. We try to make, soulmate and twin flames. We try to make things bigger than they are. Like there's some kind of eternal relationship between forms. The eternal relationships between forms is the fact that all forms arise from the same beingness, right? And so the actual twin flame is you with yourself. Now that gets manifested in genuinely compatible relationships. The kind of relationship where you felt like you've known somebody forever. Now we can say, okay, I don't know them in a past life, they're my soulmate, right? Now, I've known lots of people who had soulmates. They thought they had soulmates, and the relationship went totally south, right? Are soulmates supposed to stay together forever? We make up a bunch of these rules. I know one guy who left his wife for his twin flame, right? It was really great. It was just, what ended up happening was so horrible. And so he was a member after it was all done, and he was out of that, right? And his wife had moved on, right? He had other things going on, but he was joining this group about twin flames. They, oh yes, false twin flames, and so I had to make up a new theory to accommodate the fact that it didn't work. Here's how you distinguish this stuff, folks. It's not hard, right? It's right hard. Go to what the feeling is without a story about it. Do we not all have the experience of meeting people where there's an immediate rapport? There's just this harmony that happens, right? You immediately become friends. You immediately become lovers, right? Or you immediately become brothers or sisters or buddies. You immediately become you start a business together or something. Sometimes it isn't that kind of a friendship or romance, right? We have all had that experience, right? Now, our minds want to kind of concretize that into something. Oh yeah, it's twin flame, or we knew each other in another life. Right? I don't know. Maybe you did, maybe you didn't. Maybe there's just this wonderful simpatico that's happened, that you're both at the same frequency at this point and you've met on the path. Does it mean it's forever? Or, is it possible that it could diverge in the future? I've had experiences where I thought, oh, this is it, right? And then it wasn't. Does that negate it? Oh, it really wasn't it, and I'm waiting for what's it? That's all in the mind. What about right this moment? Right? We all seek what we call the soulmate or the twin flame. What are we actually seeking? We're seeking that sense of being seen and known, for being truly visible and loved for who we are. No affectation, no transaction, no, I got to do this and then I'll get that. But simply you, the pure, innocent you, loved as you are, which is, of course, what we all wanted as children, didn't get, and that created the trauma. So we envision that as a romantic relationship. And of course, because that's usually the role that it serves. They usually go south after a while because we're so immature, we don't know how to sustain them. And historically, the way cultures have sustained it is through force. It was better to get divorced than murder somebody. Excuse me, the other way around. Getting a divorce was a worse sin than murdering somebody, because that's the way the culture tried to enforce it, to keep people together, rather than us maturing and learning how to do that ourselves. So a relationship could be something that was stable for life, and you could fall in love over and over and over again. But what we're seeking, right? Because that still is a manifestation, and nothing can sustain it forever, right? So what we're really seeking is the infinite, eternal relationship with the one, right? We even call it, I'm looking for the one, right? Well, the one is the Buddha. The awakened one that's what the word Buddha means. Right? You're looking for the one. And what is love but the recognition of the one in the other? When we fall in love, it's just something so familiar, so effortless, so natural. It just boom, happens, right? So looking for the one is looking for the one. And that one is you. Now, that doesn't mean throw out all other forms of love. No more romantic love. I'm going to the monastery. I'm just going to focus on finding that. Because what will happen is the discovery of that one will inevitably lead to a manifestation of that, of the experience in manifest form of the oneness. That's what we call love. Love known, even a beautiful romantic love, is the manifestation of the one. That's what love is. That's what we feel when we fall in love. We're feeling ourselves. Don't we all just love ourselves when we're in love? Don't we just feel great? We could walk on water. Nothing bothers us. You're feeling your true nature, right? And it's just infinitely more than just that. So I hope that gives the whole picture of it, because yes, it's real in that it is a manifestation of the one twin flame, right? And what happens if you have twin flames? What happens to fire when they come together? They become one. They disappear. Two disappear. And the only thing left is one, right? The moth becomes one. In order for the moth to truly achieve its beloved flame, it becomes the flame. It disappears into the flame. Right? So you can't have twin flames only when they're apart. When they're together, there's no twin anymore. How's that? Silver why? Lovely. Oops. What happened? Come on. Oh, there we go. Oxenair Productions, thank you very much for the answer. This is where I have problems so far with my meditation, because sometimes I get into random no-mind states in which everything seems to be accepted and known on a deeper level, but then doubt arises about everything, so I don't know what path to take. Well, you don't doubt you. You're there, right? So what's happened? In one instance, you've experienced a no-mind state, right? That's another experience, isn't it? Now, what's the difference between the no-mind state and a state of active mind, or when the doubt arises, right? The experience has shifted, right? But I want to bring your attention to the experiencing. Has that changed? Now, which is you? The no-mind state that you're experiencing, which you can do, right? The chaotic mind state that you might be experiencing, that dissipates in meditation, the doubts that arise, are those you? Are you the one seeing it? This is so. This is one of the big mistakes. Probably every other week I hear it now, and Satsang I hear it other places all the time, right? That somehow the realization of self leads to some specific kind of experiencing happening. I'm in the no mind, now I'm the self. Well, have you ever not been the self? Right? The real revelation is when the mind is completely active and overwhelming, and you realize that I'm still myself. Now I'm witnessing a mind that's chaotic. What's the difference in you? Which side of the lens are you on? Are you the viewer or the viewed? So if you're the viewer, then it doesn't matter what's being viewed. You're always the viewer. And whether the most blissful, wonderful thing, heavens are parting and angels are singing and colors and lights is being experienced, or nothing at all, like we experience every night when we fall into deep sleep, just complete blankness. Are you any different? So who are you, right? The you that is completely separate from and aloof to all experience. That's you. The experiencer. And the experiencer cannot be experienced because you're not an event in time. You are the consciousness that is out of time, that even time requires in order to be experienced. Time is an experience. Space is an experience. So you are beyond all dimensions, all space, all time. You're the ultimate experiencer. And as that sinks in, you will be completely unconcerned with what your mind does or doesn't do. You'll stop seeking the no mind state. When a doubt arises, you go, oh, look, there's a doubt. Look at that. Because you are not your experience. And that's the freedom. That's the freedom. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Faith, faith. Okay, my lovely Sheik, I will do it. I know you will. I know you will, my dear. Klesu, nobody's liked and shared me. Don't any of you like me? Nobody's even giving me a thumbs up, let alone a heart. Klesu, a question I used to ask is up now. How will I know what to do? How do you know how to breathe? How do you know how to beat your heart? How do you know how to digest food? And the question is this idea that somehow there's this entity called a me that's doing things. There isn't. Everything is just happening. You don't have to know what to do or how. It's just happening. It always has been. It always will be. That's the big myth. The ego thinks it has to do something, right? But Francis Lucille uses the metaphor. I guess John Klein used it, and he got it from him, of the circus clown, right? The acrobats are doing these death-defying feats without a net, just marvelous and precise and just stunningly beautiful. You know, they finish and the audience jumps to its feet for a standing ovation, and the circus clowns run out and take the bow. That's the ego. That's the sense of I, thinking it's doing something. And then it hears about this non-dual stuff, and it's like, I'm not going to be, well, nothing's going to happen. You never did anything in the first place. The ego never did anything. It simply took the credit or the blame after the fact. It's the circus clown taking a bow. Okay? So don't concern yourself with it. You know, when you're a little kid, you didn't concern yourself. Oh, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? You didn't. You just, every day, you just did. Stuff just happened, and you're up, and whatever. Right? That's life. This is what it actually is. So don't be the least bit concerned about it. Silva says it's called cognitive dissonance in the field of psychology. Interesting stuff. Yes, right. Cognitive dissonance, right? Where it's just this two opposites happening side by side. And it's common. It's common. This cord keeps popping out. It's common. It gets too severe, we call it schizophrenia. It gets too severe, it's multi-personality, where they literally become different people acting the things out. But it all stems from exactly the same thing. Know who you are. It all comes together. There's no more dissonance. Mary, I'm friends with a man who was a former Jain monk. Oh, that's interesting. Who loves Osho and still thinks that there was nothing wrong with that type of sexual conduct. Well, you know, that's in sense, there's no absolute right or wrong about sexual conduct, right? Someone wants to be polyamorous, wants to be a swinger, fine, right? If everybody's in on it, right? Nobody's being coerced or forced against their will, it's not wrong, right? So we can't lay on top of anything some kind of an artificial or imposed value or moral system, right? My way of doing it is, well, look for yourself. Is it satisfying, right? Are you satisfied? And if you are, well, you're going to keep doing it. So there's no problem there. Will it lead to the ultimate? What I found is that no, it won't, right? Right? It won't do that, right? Will it harm it? No. I mean, it's no assist. Uh, Sexuality, like any kind of activity, can become obsessive. We can begin to use it to define ourselves, and therefore it can become addictive, psychologically and emotionally addicting. Right? Right. So if he thinks it's okay, that conduct was okay in a certain context it was, in another context it is. It depends on how you look at it, right? I think for most people that experience that, it it did not lead them any place. It did not lead them to greater freedom, right? It led them to greater confusion, and um, and so they got to enjoy or indulge a certain kind of freedom. Because yes, if I can now just indulge myself sexually, and I came from a repressive environment, that's going to be, comparatively speaking, more free. Are you really free? No, right? That's something different, right? Right. So we can't impose some kind of moral absolute on it and say this is the way it should be, this is the way you should have been. That's illegitimate, right? But to just discern it, where did it lead? What, Christ said it beautifully: by their fruits you shall know them. It's so simple, right? Does it produce the kind of wisdom, compassion, equanimity, intelligence that is really our ideal? If yes, well, oh, great. If not, well, then no. I didn't see it do that, so I said, okay, it's not really appropriate. It's not going to get you there. But if somebody's there and they want to be there and they're not willing to listen to an alternative, well, God bless them. life teaches everyone everything they need to know. I don't have to. Life itself will reveal everything that needs to be revealed. Wonderful. Mora or Riley. Hi, GP. Glad I caught your live session. Always miss it. LOL. Love you. You are a blessing in our lives. Thank you so much. Oh, beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I'm glad I am. I would hate to think I'm an annoyance in people's lives or an impediment in some way. Ooh. Mary says, beautiful said about twin flames. Thank you. Silver Wise says, thank you. I mean, it's highly misunderstood and romanticized term. So it was refreshing hearing your answer. Yeah, it becomes one or the other. And that's always what happens with the mind. The mind abstracts things, right? The experience is always real. The experience came from something authentic, but then it gets interpreted and sentimentalized or romanticized or idealized. The mind tries to turn it into something, and if all you have to do is, you can either say, oh, it's all bullshit, throw it all out, right? Which is throwing out the baby with the bathwater. Or you could say, okay, well, what's true here? So you go to what is the experience that gave rise to these ideas that divorced us from the experience, and get back to the experience. And what is the experience? The experience of oneness, which we're all craving and we want to have permanently. But you can't have the experience of oneness permanently in the many, right? It manifests in the many. It is not in the many. So the experience of it as permanent, you don't experience it as permanent, because experience is by its nature is impermanent. You experience it as yourself, and then it's permanent because it's me. Now it's me. It's not something that comes and goes. I don't come and go. If I were to go, it'd be oblivion. Right? I'm always here. That's all I know is myself, my own presence. So it's a discovery of what is actually the magnitude of this me. Is it just this body, just this mind, just these experiences? It is the I am, the infinite I amness that is alive in all things. The question has been bothering me for weeks. I know. I think I answered it already. You probably said that before I got to the answer. Mora, you are all of it. In truth, that is all there is. Amen. Let's see. Klesu, the answer, it keeps bothering me. I'm 67 and not looking for another partner. Must one have a partner? Transcend? I'm indulging. No, I'm 68 and I have a partner. Okay. No, you don't. Right? If you do, great. If you don't, great. Right? It's that simple. Having a partner or not having a partner has no effect whatsoever on awakening, on transcending, on discovering who you are. Neither having nor not having interferes with it. Believing that it does interferes with it, at least in our imagination. Truth is, nothing can interfere with your awakening. Nothing. If there's somebody here with you, right, then that becomes the means by which you work out your salvation, right? And if you don't, then that is the means by which. So, oh wow, been around for 2 hours now. Dear GP, I have no question, but being here has lifted my energy. So beautiful, so beautiful, beautiful, beautiful friend. Oxnir says, thank you for your words, and thanks for doing this in general. Oh, you're so welcome. I think I know what to do now. Just sit with whatever arises, I guess. Yes. And it's not just learning how to sit and allow and be with what arises, right? What that does is bring your attention completely away from the experience. So it doesn't matter what you're experiencing now. Wonderful, horrible, no mind, a lot of mind, bliss, misery, right? Because there's an awareness that it's simply something appearing in this field. Now, here is where the question, well, who am I? Boom, really sinks in, right? What is it that's aware? Who am I? Obviously, it's me who's aware of all of this. And if I'm aware of all this, well, then I'm not that. I can't be anything that I'm just perceiving. So what am I? And at that point, attention has completely withdrawn from all experience. Having completely withdrawn from all experience, attention is trying to turn towards you, but this is as far as it can go. It can't turn towards you because it's reporting to you. Right? It can't see you. You cannot know yourself. And so that question, who am I now, has to be answered from a different place. No relative information, no experience can possibly do it. So at this point, you are now sitting in the place of the pure I am. This is the ultimate meditation, and realize that at this point it is effortless. There's nothing you can do. It is pure grace. But it's the best place to be. You're knocking on the door, right? But your knocking is not going to be influential as to whether the door opens or not. Nothing you do matters at this point. So I'm simply here. I'm simply here. I am. That's all I know. And then you'll find out that's all there is. You simply are. I am. I am what is. Mary, I agree with you, GP. Osho is out of balance, and my friend is not thinking for himself as he believes everything Osho said is right. And of course, that's dangerous. Don't take anything I say as right. Check it out. If you find it to be true, we're brothers and sisters. We are now agree. We both see it's not my wisdom. It's not your wisdom. It is just wisdom, right? But it is wisdom recognized, and that's the best. It's the only, right? Penny, thanks so much for having a space for us to inquire about life. Love you all. Love you, Penny. Lisa, why is life so hard for many of us humans, to the point where it can lead some of us to addiction or even worse? Why was life designed this way by God, universe, nature? Because this is the only way. If it was all so easy, you would never wake up to who you are. I mean, it sounds like, what? Right? And it is a bit, it does seem a bit nuts. Why design it this way? Right? Why isn't it just blissful? Because we have to come to see that whether it's hard or easy, we are that which is perceiving. And it's only with this contrast that that can be seen. As Buddha said, to be born a human is the most auspicious thing that can happen, because it is only in this world of evil and good and all these contrasts that reality can be discerned, that I can actually wake up to who I really am. So embrace the conflict, embrace it, that pain when you feel it. And don't think that the spiritual journey is the mission to get away from the pain. It's actually to become so free that you embrace it without suffering. Now you're free. You're totally free. You have gone all the way beyond. And now what happens? It doesn't touch you. You are beyond. You have gone totally beyond. The Prajna Paramita mantra, gone totally beyond. Ida, I love you, G. I love you too. Thank you from the heart for sharing the beautiful wisdom and for being here. Wonderful. Harry Van Man. Harry Van Man. The Russian gentleman who was supposed to have a head transplant has now declined. If this succeeded, this would confuse me. As I feel I beyond my head. I wonder how that would work. Sorry for what seems a stupid question. It's not a stupid question. No. The fact that this kind of thing are happening are really challenging our sense of identity, aren't they? Right? What would happen is the very same consciousness would have a different experience, right? That very same consciousness would now be experiencing a different body. What's the difference between that and people's belief in reincarnation? So I'm born in a different body, right? It's just that we're so identified with the body, it will be very confusing, right? And somebody who's trying to have his head transplanted onto another body, first off, he believes consciousness is in the head, right? And so he's going to experience this other body. What's he going to experience? Different feelings, different, I mean, all sorts of things are going to be different, but experience is going to be different. Is consciousness different? Is consciousness any different, really? No. The ultimate experiencer remains the same. And there's no difference, really, between that and dying and getting another body. Except that sense of I would now still be here. That sense of identity that had been identified with the previous body would still be here, and then slowly but surely would identify with the new body. And that other one would disappear and would remain a memory, right? It's okay. These kinds of things they kind of, what is consciousness? That's what they're supposed to do. Same thing with, robotics getting so sophisticated that we won't be able to tell the difference. Is it sentient? Is it not? Well, you have to know whether you are or not. And what does sentience really mean? Is the body sentient? Or is the body just a very sophisticated organic robot? In which case, what is the sentience? These are the questions that the way everything is going in our modern world are showing us this was got to be answered. This is real. We got to really come to terms with this stuff. So thanks for that, Harry Van Man. It's a great question. I don't mind it at all. Ava, thank you for Satsang. It's a great time of being. Truth and love in action. David and Emily, amen to that. Thanks, GP, once again. Love and blessings. Thank you all. trying to get to everything here, but the list keeps growing. Silva Y. Ava, greetings from Warsaw. Oh, Silva, you must be, you're in Poland too. Beautiful. John, thanks for Satsang. Jay, now I really understand what Ajahn meant by spirituality is not a feel-good path, because what is beyond feelings good and bad. Yes. Ajahn, another teacher that I say yes. He's a real one. For that very reason. For that very reason, he's not stuck in the absolute. He's not stuck in the relative. This is not a feel-good path. It is that which transcends all feeling, and that's freedom. Freedom is not being able to persistently create or eternally create a good feeling. That's something else. Something else altogether. So people seek. They seek heaven, and they think that's what nirvana is. It's not. It's this. I am. No matter what's happening out here, I still am. Are you not the one experiencing it? Right? And is the experiencing itself vacillating at all? That's the discovery of the self. Faith, namaste to you. Our hearts are with you, my dear. Anja, thank you for the wisdom. Thank you for being here. Hurry Van Man, thank you for your answer. I was curious and was sure it would fall as the I would leave his corporeal self. It might even just totally fail, right? They may not be able to do it and not understand why, because they're convinced this is a purely physiological function and that consciousness and physiology are one, right? It's up to us to discover that it isn't. They're not one. Consciousness is one, right? But the form just comes and goes and comes and goes and comes and goes. I ran out of questions. 2 minutes and 15 seconds. Love you all. Thank you for being here. Thank you for joining me in Satsang. My favorite time of the week. I love you, love you, love you all. Okay, bye-bye now.